Hey everybody, I'm Riley.
And I'm Todd, and welcome to this week's edition episode. I always say edition episode of Barber Cuts. This week we are talking about the 1989 album, another 80s one. So all of a sudden we seem to be stuck in the 80s. Oh, drats. But it's a different tangent. So 1989, here we go. Doolittle by the Pixies. And so I guess we can jump right into it, Riley. What are your least favorite songs from this album?
I was about to do what I did that one time and start with with my favorites again,
Uh-oh.
and then just get everyone confused. Anyway, my least favorites was probably,
Least favorites was?
yep,
Hmm,
I'm sticking with my grammar.
okay.
Um, so I did not like the song A. Just some vulgar language in there that's not the most pleasant to listen to. Um, Besides that, I just didn't really like it that much. And then my other least favorite was probably like right next to it was sorry, I'm looking at them and I'm realizing that I only picked one. So we're only gonna get one least favorite. Um, I only really had the one least favorite. I was trying to pick a different one and then I couldn't pick one. So it was just hay. I just didn't
Hey,
like hay.
okay.
Poor
Um,
hay.
yeah, poor Hey. So, one of the things with Hey, it wasn't mine, but when it first started, the beat, and you may not know this song, but go listen to it. The beat initially reminded me of Beast of Burden by the Rolling Stones. Um, so I was like, huh.
I'll have to go
But
listen to
anyway,
it.
so my least favorite, I actually do have two because I followed the rules.
Sorry.
Song. So one of them was I Bleed. And I think it was the double voices where I think I think she is singing and the guy is speaking singing sometimes. It was rather strange to me. And I don't think I ever recovered. Um, that may be one of your favorites. The other one is Silver. And that was right after Hay. Um, and Hay, at least for me, it fit the vibe. But Silver just had a different vibe than the rest of the album. So it felt out of place to me. So it gives off a eerie, almost appropriate Halloween mystical sound to it, with the voices. They're very melodic. And then it was a slide guitar, so there was never really anything hard. It was always moving up and down. Again, just gave an eerie kind of feel, so which is different than most every other song on there. So those were my least favorite
I
two.
love I love slide guitar. That's probably like
I do.
I, there is nothing there's no better feeling to me than when a band walks on stage and they carry out a little slide guitar and I just get to watch someone play slide guitar
Yeah,
for the
like
night. It is so impressive and interesting to watch. Richie mentioned the coal miners when I went to a music festival, the Moon River, hosted by Drew and Ellie Holcomb. I think
yes.
someone's mentioned them somewhere somehow. But one of their guys had a slide guitar, and I was just watching it the entire time, like
Yeah.
completely entranced. I didn't get a video of it because I was entranced, but
Yeah. So I'll put it in
it's so
quotes.
much.
A real slide guitar where they sit down and play it.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, those are cool. I know
yeah,
I
like
know
with the metal with
sometimes they have
no,
like the finger long whatever it looks like extra long thimble
no.
where they're sliding
He
it across a
he sat
normal
down. He
guitar.
had like the metal ball
Yeah,
and
those are
everything,
cool.
and
Those are cool.
it was so impressive. And I
Yeah.
don't even think, if I'm remembering correctly, this person was not actually a member of the band. He could just play the slide guitar and he took their pictures. So he's their photographer
Oh,
and could
nice.
play slide guitar. It's really cool.
That's impressive.
Um, yeah, it was.
All right, so
But
favorites.
okay, so this album started off strong with me, with Debaser being one of my favorites. Um, I mean, it's just classic alt rock. It's a great
Yep.
intro into what this album is, into who this band is. It's just a really good intro song to set the tone for the rest of the album.
Yeah,
Um,
that opening bass is like, oh, this is good.
yeah, it
Yeah.
and just like having a little bit of the girl singing in the background, like it's the classic intro of the loud soft loud. They do
Yep.
that. It encompasses everything that this band really is known for in one song.
Yep.
Um, which I just really enjoyed. And
And
then
before you
the
move on, a little bit of trivia because
oh
that's what maybe my part of this whole thing is. That song is based off of a 1929 short film. But in the earliest version of the lyrics, there was a song of the song. There was a line that was originally called messing that all up. Um, the line was originally shed Apollonina, Apollonina, something like that. Apollonia, which is actually a reference to Purple Rain, the movie. So
shout
it's neat
out.
to see, you know, some various items connecting in the musical world with, we just did Prince, what, 2 weeks ago, maybe. So neat to see those things connecting.
Yeah.
And you can tell
Um,
I have not seen the movie because I don't know how to say Apolloina, Apollonia. So
that's
there we go.
that's
On to next favorite.
So my next favorite, I just really enjoyed it, was Monkey Gone to Heaven. Another classic alt rock. But the one that so first I like that in this album or this song, Monkey's Gone to Heaven is like funny to hear. It most of their lyrics, and I can talk about that more later, don't have that much to them. Most of their songs are just very repetitive lyrics, and it's a lot more about like how they're saying it than that makes it interesting, and not the actual lyrics themselves, which is really cool. But this one, it's kind of the same thing. There's some like interesting parts, but to just like keep going, this monkey's gone to heaven is really funny to listen to.
I agree.
But the part that like really stuck this song for me is the part where he repeats, if man is five, then the devil is six, then God is seven. The way he sings that and it progressively gets more like screamy almost is so much fun to listen to, and it just like scratches an itch for me. Um, and which is again, I mean, that is like a classic trope in indie alt rock. It's like that progressively getting more screamy, but it worked really well in this song, and it just shows the emotion in the song without the lyrics necessarily backing it up, which
Yeah.
is a very interesting way to get emotion
Yeah.
out of a song.
Yeah. There are several biblical references throughout the album, actually. So my one of my favorites actually carries that theme a little further. So, one of mine is Gouge Away. Again, another great example of the loud, quiet, loud. You've heard us talk about it on Nirvana, and this is really where they pulled it from. But this one song I actually like because it's really a reverse on that loud, quiet, loud, or loud, soft, loud. Because the verse part is the loud part, and the chorus is where they get quiet, and usually it's the other way around. Also love they've got a driving bass that you can hear throughout the song, and this one, the biblical reference here is it's inspired actually by the story of Samson and Delilah from the Bible. Um,
Which Personal trivia used to be my favorite story of the Bible when we had a kid Bible because I liked the hair and thought Delilah was pretty. And then I grew up and I read the story again, and very different.
Yeah. The last verse there, it says, chained to the pillars, a 3-day party. I break the walls and kill us all with holy fingers. So you can see the reference there. The other one, in that's large, not on my list, but the other biblical reference there is dead, which was inspired by the David and Bathsheba story. And so toward the end, it has the line, Uriah hit the crapper, which is unfortunately funny. Um, but the biblical story. Uriah is Bathsheba's husband, and he's a soldier that David sends to the front line and actually has him killed. So Uriah hit the crapper is Black Francis, who is the lead singer of the Pixies, his way of interpreting that. So, but yeah, that's but my other favorite song is Wave of Mutilation. And so I also really, really like Here Comes Your Man. And that is probably my favorite, but um, I didn't want to put it because it was my song of the week back on the White Stripes episode. So go listen to what I said about it on that episode. So I wanted to pick a different one. But Wave of Mutilation, again, quiet verse. You hear the drum, the bass line shine through with the verse. The chorus really picks up with the repeat, pounding of the snare drum. The lyrics, on the other hand, and when I went back and looked at them, like, okay, the lyrics are rather dark, and inspired by during the time. Most of these, I think, were written in the late 80s, maybe, 88, 87. And the lyrics were inspired by news reports of Japanese businessmen committing murder suicides by driving their cars into the ocean. So, yeah, lyrically a very deep song with dealing with self-destruction and surrendering to circumstances of the world. But as we see often with many songs, the lyrical meaning is juxtaposed with this what upbeat, happy sounding music that you're like, oh yeah, I can bebop my head to this, and then you go figure out what it's talking about and read the lyrics. You're like, oh, okay, that brings a slightly different meaning to it. Um, so I guess that's done with favorites. Any other thoughts about songs, or we just want to talk about them? I guess we can talk about the songs as we tell people why you should listen to this album.
I am very biased because the why should you listen to this album? I mean, the Pixies are iconic. Whether or not you know of the Pixies, you know of the bands that they've inspired, like Nirvana. I mean, they're
Yeah.
considered founding fathers, founding members of the alt-rock indie movement,
Yep.
which, despite what I said my favorite album was, I stand by that. But alt-rock and indie tends to be my favorite genre. I love that type of music. Um,
And so
and
you mentioned Nirvana, some of the other bands that like are influenced by the Pixies, and all these have specifically listed this album as well, which is even more impressive. Radiohead,
mhm,
yep, Modest Mouse,
yep.
Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer. So like those are some big name bands that
Yes.
are
And
influenced by this particular album.
and let's not forget uh one of my favorite bands of all time is Cage the Elephant.
Oh,
Cage the Elephant has also directly cited this album as an inspiration. In
yep.
fact, so I was listening Debaser is the first one that as soon as it come on, it made me think of early Cage songs. It was just like almost to a T. And so I looked it up. I told you to listen to one of their songs or one of their albums. They actually got called Pixies, like Pixies 2.0. Like people thought that they were just directly trying to do the Pixies, and they've said like, I mean, that's kind of what we were trying to do. We were just trying to do the Pixies. And so after that, this isn't a Cage the Elephant episode, but after that, they did an interesting thing where they stopped listening to any music when they were recording and creating theirs so that they wouldn't get any outside and accidentally like rip off someone.
Yeah,
But when they were forming their little feet, um, and getting their, when they were forming their ideas and getting their feet wet,
there you go.
they took a lot from the Pixies, and the album "Thank You, Happy Birthday" I think is the one that kind of gets called the Pixies, specifically a song called Aberdeen. Um, but like they just have inspired like everyone in the alt rock and indie
Yeah,
scene. Like they're like the higher ups in this field. Um, and you can see why when you listen to it and hear all the different bits and pieces that different artists pull and take from it, like the loud,
yeah,
soft, loud, like
yep,
the like dark lyrics to the happy beat and the repetitive lyrics
yeah,
and the screams and experimentation within it and like all of this stuff. And you can be like, oh, I recognize that from this, and I recognize that from this. And then you realize that you don't recognize it because it's from somewhere else, like from someone else before. You recognize
yeah,
it because they inspired it.
yeah,
Like, and that's what's crazy. That's what's always cool to get in music. Um, is kind of get closer to the front lines.
yeah,
So that's, in my opinion, why you should go listen to it is because it inspired some of the best music that's currently existing.
true. Yeah, I agree with that. Their first studio album is called Surfer Rosa, and it's probably got their most well-known song on it, "Where Is My Mind?" Most well-known to at least all the cool kids. And
So,
true.
so
Um,
yeah, someone didn't know who it was, uh, that it should have known who it was, but that is also because of you. Also, like Cage the Elephant. Also, speaking of Cage the Elephant, Where Is My Mind and songs like Ain't No Rest for the Wicked, I thought were equivalent to Bohemian Rhapsody, Journey, that one song by Journey.
yeah,
Like I thought everyone just knew these songs. Like these were just a part of music for everyone. And then when I got to college and started like talking to people about music, and I was like, oh, and obviously Ain't No Rest for the Wicked. And they're like, I've never heard that song. And I'm like,
like
yeah, you
what?
have. You just don't recognize it. Playing it, and they're like, no, I still don't recognize that song. And I'm like, my world is shattered.
Yeah,
Uh, so that one was a shattering event
yeah.
this
But that
past week.
that song is how I actually got introduced to the Pixies, and when I was in college, a band called Three would actually play that song at a lot of their shows. So grew to be introduced to them from there, and started going further. But so why do you listen to it? Yeah, we've already talked about it. Like Cobain said, this was "Smells Like Teen Spirit," one of the biggest rock songs, maybe the biggest of the 90s. um, was Nirvana's attempt at writing a Pixie song. Like that's what they said it was. And
Yeah, I
so
think they
you're
also
like,
use the words like rip off
wow,
at some
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Like,
So, it's just crazy. But if you like drums and bass lines, this is your album because of the loud, soft, loud. The drums and bass line. We've talked about this. Where was it? Prince, where there was a missing bass line in When Doves Cry. Well, when these verses or whatever during the quiet parts of the songs, you hear the drum and the bass keep going. And oftentimes it's just a voice on top of it. And the while going back to Where's My Mind, maybe the song they're best known for, This is their second studio album, and it's probably what most people would say defines them as a band, and just why it is. And so, another analogy, if you like roller coasters, um, and not the kiddie kind, but if you like true, legit roller coasters, then this may be an album for you as well because it is a roller coaster of music. Um,
Which I do like roller coasters.
Yes,
So,
and not always. So roller coasters are a new thing for
yes.
both the Barber kids. But so what I mean by that, the styles of songs differ. So you've got pop, you've got a random swing tempo bit in Mr. Greaves. You've got what seems like punk and Crackety Jones. La La Love You is a sweet sounding like love song, just to name a few. You've got tempos that vary. Oftentimes the tempos, the speed of the song, it speeds up and slows down across the album, but it does it within songs too, which is crazy. Voices, the sound of their voices. Black Francis is the main male singer. Kim Deal is the female. And so sometimes you have melodic voices. Sometimes you have stressed voices, screaming voices, spoken. And again, sometimes those shifts are in the middle of the song. So you never know what is actually going to come across, the next beat. And that's what I mean by that roller coaster. You never know where the loop-de-loop or the big drop is about to happen. And so that's really it's a really neat thing that they've done throughout this album.
Yeah, which is my favorite thing about uh the indie genre in general is it's such a wide genre and
Hmm.
it's just considered indie and alt rock because like you can't fit it in anything else quite.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fun. You never know what you're gonna get. There's so much to explore within the genre that it's very hard to get bored of listening to it over and over again because it's just you pick up different things each time you listen to it and something new surprises you and you forget that there's a big drop there and that they start screaming out of nowhere and it's just so much fun. But I think something that I did want to mention with the female singer is we've talked about in another album, I think it was the White Stripes, where randomly bringing in like female singers can really be off-putting
Hmm.
to the song, especially in a harder album, because getting such a melodic voice come in is like very off-putting.
Yeah,
And I think it just works so well for the Pixies.
it does.
Like the and Debaser, the melodic singing of the Debaser of singing Debaser, and Here Comes Your Man and Where Is My Mind, like all of these. I know that Where Is My Mind is not this album, but still, uh, her melodic voice works so well for the Pixies in a way that I think in other bands that we've seen it hasn't worked super well.
Mm,
And I think that's also a testament to like how well the Pixies understood what they were doing
yeah,
and the experimentation that was going into it.
yeah, I agree. And another bit of trivia: Kim Deal, the female singer, actually left the Pixies, joined up with her twin sister to form the Breeders. And so the Breeders have a big super hit from the early '90s called Cannonball. You remember that one?
No, I don't.
No, 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 no. Hit me, Cannonball. Anyway,
That was
but
a
it's a
great
it's
rendition
a
of
it's
it,
a it's
though.
a good song. And so uh, playing into what alt rock and indie rock, or really not even alt rock and indie rock, but alt and indie in any genre. So I'll clarify that. All of all of those bands do this, and the Pixies is no different with this album. These albums are made for the artist and the fans,
Yeah.
and they don't care if it gets radio play. They don't care if it blows up. They really do it for what they really want the music to be like, and they know that they've got fans that love it. And so that's again, we've talked about it before about artists that, quote unquote, sell out. That's not what this is at all. This is really um, that alt and indie type of mentality. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a really good, we have talked about the loud, soft, loud. We'll continue to talk about it through various bands that do it. And again, there was some of that happening even before the Pixies, but the Pixies really are credited with really popularizing it. So this album, and I think maybe Tame is that the second one after? 'Cause I got it up here. Yeah, the second song after Debaser. Tame has got maybe the most drastic
Yeah.
shift between loud, soft, loud. So um, to really get an idea of what we're talking about. So um, anything else about the album before
I
we get
don't
to best beats and
I
bars?
don't think so.
All right. So in that case, Riley, what's the best lyric from the album?
So, as I mentioned before, they repeat a lot. The so the lyrics in this album are interesting, don't get me wrong, but there there's not that many to choose from because it's usually just very repeated throughout the song. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to them or go read the lyrics. It would be the better way to do it because they say the lyrics so differently, so it sounds like they're singing something different. If that makes any sense. And then when you
Mhm.
read the lyrics and you're like, oh, they've just repeated the same words for the past 5 minutes, and you're like, ah, sick. That happened to me a few times where I was listening to it and then I was listening to it closer and I was like, they haven't said anything new, but my brain is registering it as something new. Um, so all that to say, I do have favorite lyrics. It's just harder to pick out. My favorite lyrics were actually what you mentioned as the dark point, was the Wave of Mutilation song, just because it is so juxtaposed and so like heavy that it kind of hits you and forces you to pay attention. I mean, the song starts with saying, cease to resist, giving my goodbye, drive my car into the ocean. You'll think I'm dead, but I sail away on a wave of mutilation. And it just forces you to pay attention to anything that comes next. It's just very beautifully said. I always say that when I come to the lyrics, as if they're not beautifully said. They're lyrics. They're going to be beautifully said. But anyway, it just forces you to pay attention to the song in a way that I think was I just guess what I'm trying to say is it captured me more than most other lyrics. Like it
Yeah.
just forced my attention on it.
The cease to resist is, from what I read, a callback to a Beach Boys lyric, which is a callback to a Charles Manson lyric
Hmm.
or a poem. I think he had a lyric. The Beach Boys slightly redid it, and then they're calling it back to there. But even speaking to those lyrics, we talked about it's about driving a car into the ocean, which is what you just mentioned as the lyrics. The next verse, not to mean to laugh, but it's just interesting the way the lyrics continue. I've kissed mermaids and rode the El Nino, walk the sand with the crustacean. So, I mean, he's even continuing like what happens after they've driven into the ocean, which
Yeah, I
again,
mean,
like there's again juxtaposed, like there's some humor in that, but yet that's still dark in how they got to that point.
yeah, I think also something that's interesting with that song is like he's taking it even further, but in taking it even further, he's saying like he didn't die. He's just on a new adventure.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
like somehow there's like this kind of hopeful little message that's like even through the pain, you're on this new little adventure.
yeah,
And it's like, where did that come from? How did we get here?
yeah.
And I that's another great part of the song. But I love the opening lyrics and how woo, in your face and attention
Yeah.
grabbing they really are.
Meanwhile, you got people like me that are just bebopping right along because we're not paying attention to lyrics. Um, oblivious to the underlying message. Woohoo! So my best beat for me, and I think we may have swapped, right? So your best bar came from my favorite. Your
Hmm.
favorite song was Monkey Gone to Heaven. So
Yep.
that's where my best beat's coming from.
There we go.
Interesting how this has worked out. So it's actually the opening 30 seconds of Monkey Gone to Heaven. Um, so it opens with loud drums, guitar, like all the instruments. Like it just comes in hard, loud, and then very quickly it just all of that drops, goes to the lyric of "There was a guy," and it's not really sung. It's more spoken, like it's a weird thing. Um, and then that's all he says. And then it goes to maybe like a drum and bass mini solo for a few seconds. And then it comes in with another lyric, same way, spoken, an underwater guy who controlled the sea. Like, okay, you got me. And like you can clearly hear these, like this in
Yeah.
rock where sometimes you can't understand them. Like you know exactly what's saying. Um, and then what's neat after this one is a cello actually joins in. So again, the lyric goes away, still the drum and bass, but a cello joins in with some real quick staccato notes that boom, 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 boom. And then the lyrics come back in. You can hear the cello in the back start to play some really long notes with everything going on. And then you get the lyric that, again, very clear. There was a guy, an underwater guy who controlled the sea. And then you get this, got killed by 10 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey. And then all of a sudden, the loud kicks in for the chorus. The song continues. And I'm like, that opening is very well done, um, musically, lyrically, and to me, and hopefully you'll agree, it's a little 30-second, 32 seconds maybe, microcosm of the whole album. Just all in there. There's so much going on in just a few seconds of music because it comes in with a loud, then it goes soft, then and then it comes back loud at the end. The lyrics that make you think, but yet this interesting drum and bass line, and then a cello that comes in, which they don't use a lot of other instruments in other places, so that cello was a little bit surprising. But anyway, the as you go listen to Riley's favorite song, pay really close attention to those first 30 seconds. That's my best beat from the album, Monkey Gone to
I
Heaven.
think I think the only way I can explain the Pixies is like they're almost like the alt version of the Beastie Boys who like don't mess around as like don't aren't as vulgar, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you can tell they're just having fun. They're just doing what they want. And like it almost like the Beastie Boys is famous for saying like they would pitch lines and if it didn't make someone laugh, it didn't get written down. Like it almost seems like they're doing that, but like, oh dude, that's sick.
Yeah,
Like if they did something and it didn't get that reaction, it's like, ah, whatever. Like
yeah,
everything they do is just trying to get a like, oh, that sounds cool,
yeah,
which is music, but like it seems as if they were just having fun while doing it. And
yeah.
the intro to Monkey Got to Heaven is a great example of that because oh
Yes.
boy, does it catch you off guard and draw
Yeah.
you in as well.
And I think in like right after those 30 seconds is where repeats like four times in a row, Monkey Gone to Heaven, Monkey Gone to Heaven, Monkey Gone to Heaven.
Yeah.
That's the I guess the chorus of where it's blows up fast and loud. So it's a good song. I really like that song too. So that being said, what are your ratings?
So I really liked this album. I put it as a 9.5. just because my 10 so far, like other than the one that I chose, is Arcade Fire.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not quite there for me. Like Arcade Fire is like where I'm putting in, like if they can live up to that. But it itself, the album itself was not up there. Everything that it's inspired, which it even probably inspired Arcade Fire because Arcade Fire is indie, whatever. There's nowhere this album doesn't reach.
Yeah,
But I put it as a 9.5. I really enjoyed it. I knew about the Pixies. I hadn't listened to this album in total before, but I could listen to this album over and over and be happy with it. Um, Minus just like sometimes the fatigue of like being on a roller coaster and the unpredictable. Because
sure.
that is real. Um, but I would say objectively, I would still give it a 9.5. I can't I can't tell if like part of that is just because I'm going 9.5. I'd say 9.5 just because like their techniques are what inspired like hundreds of thousands of artists. Not just like, oh, this sounds nice, but like the loud, soft, loud, the drums and bass, the doing their lyrics differently, or the repetitiveness, the off guard, the like all of these things that they're like known for,
Yeah,
they may not be known for, but like they're the ones who made it big, you know? I don't
yeah,
know if that made any sense because a lot of people don't credit the Pixies when they should credit the Pixies. That's the
yeah,
thing with the Pixies that they're upset about, I
yeah,
know. But like they have contributed so much, like objectively. And so it would be hard to rate it any lower than almost perfect simply because of how big they made everything they did.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Which ironically is why my objective rating is just like yours, 9.5.
Okay, I chose the
So
right one.
yeah, my personal rating's at a 9, so just a half step lower. But objectively at 9.5, like if if the Radiohead, Nirvana, I'll mention those two because again, 90s, early 90s and 90s is really where I fell in love with music. You inspired Nirvana and Radiohead, who both have probably in the 90s, both of them have two of the best albums of the 90s.
Yeah.
And like, okay, you've done something very good in that.
And
And
even past then, sorry, you're
yeah,
gonna get bands that say they're inspired. This is going back to they don't get credited. Bands that say they're inspired by Nirvana and Radiohead and
right.
Cage and all these bands, most of the times the thing they're inspired by are what those bands directly credit to the Pixies.
Yeah,
So like it's the more you look into it, the more you're just genuinely like the Pixies are everywhere without anyone knowing.
yeah, yeah. So we'll give not that they care because, you know, me, you, and our three followers.
Hey, we have like 20 now.
Yes, we
Shout
are
out to
growing,
20 followers.
and all the other countries that are joining the bandwagon. Um, but yeah, so I mean, we'll give the Pixies their due credit here and say, you know, it's worth a listen.
Definitely.
And again, like I'm going to admit, like our song taste, so obviously there's going to be some bias in there of what we like, and so you may not like that, so be aware going into it, but there is a roller coaster of music that will happen in there, and so just keep listening, and you'll find bits and pieces, I think, in this album that you may not like it overall, but you'll find places in it that you're like, oh, I really like that song.
Yeah.
Or, I really like these three or four songs, because the songs can vary that much, which
Yeah.
again is impressive to have a sound, but then to have so much of it sound so different, is really impressive. Um, all right, so to give both of them. So nine, 9.5 for me, nine and a halfs for Riley.
Yippee.
That takes us to song of the week. Riley, what was your song of the week?
Three song of the week.
Three song of the weeks.
Three song of the week. So my first one, two of them we've already mentioned. My first one was Aberdeen, just because I love this song. You can account for that I've always loved this song
I
because
can.
whenever him and I went to a Cage the Elephant concert and he asked me what song I wanted to hear, and it was Aberdeen, and they didn't play Aberdeen. But Aberdeen is one of my favorite Cage songs. I love it, and it's probably the one you can hear the Pixies influence on the most. It's just a really good song and incredible how much it does sound like the Pixies after listening to it. But it just reminded me of that. The other one I listened to a lot this week was Where
Yeah.
Is My Mind?
And also on your Cage, when we went to the concert, I knew Riley's rule of not videoing and not taking pictures. So I videoed and took videos of her, not of her, but of the band. So
One
she,
of me.
yeah, one of you where I zoomed over and she was singing and dancing. Yeah, I did all the recordings so she could have longer clips of the concert.
Yes. But Aberdeen. So then my other one was Where Is My Mind? Just a great song that I often forget about, unfortunately. So when listening to the Pixies and the album finishes and it just kind of goes on its own little ramble, of course it plays Where Is My Mind because it's so big. Um, and oh, it's just a great reminder anytime I remember that song.
So again,
Um,
I'll bring up the 90s. So you probably don't do this, but I do, and maybe a lot of people from the 90s that would hear this song do, at the beginning goes, "Ooh, stop." Always,
Collaborate and listen.
always
Expect
without
a brand new
fail.
invention.
I say collaborate and listen in my head.
Did I just make you the proudest dad?
If you do it when yes you did because you knew where I was going. So there we go.
Yeah. And then the other one, funnily enough, also starts with Where Is. But it's a newer song called Where Is My Husband by Ray. Funny name. It just came out September 19th, so not even a month old. It's huge. It's getting a lot of traction. But I love Ray as an artist, but this is just such a fun song to listen to. It's very it's poppy. It's pretty poppy. She sings really fast. She has a very like jazzy voice. A lot of people say that she looks and acts and kind of sings very similar to Amy Winehouse. She
Hmm.
has the big black hair. She has the mole. Like she just kind of fits the vibe of Amy Winehouse, and she's just a lovely little character. And Whereas My Husband is just, oh, it's such a fun song to listen to, um, and has just been kind of capturing me the past week.
Very good. So, mine is song of the week is also inspired by the Pixies. Funny how that works. But it's Rhinoceros from Gish, the Smashing Pumpkins'
Mm.
first album. And so Gish, which very few people know about, often goes unnoticed by casual fans. Casual fan is going to say that Siamese Dream is the first Smashing Pumpkins album. And then you can go all fanboy or fangirl on them, say, no, it's not. And so Gish was released 3 months before 10 and 4 months before Nevermind. So that gives you a relation of you had a Smashing Pumpkins album, 10, and then Nevermind. It's actually the same producer from Nevermind, but really like this album. And this song, it's probably one of my favorite Smashing Pumpkin songs. But it's got a slow build up throughout the song. Starts almost as a ballad, and this song just kind of brings you into this dreamy world, seemingly about just looking at some of the lyrics, some mystery girl, and again, this may take you back to some of the lyrics we talked about with the Pixies. Some dreamy mystery girl, an ice cream party that's being planned for June, and then mustard lies. So, yeah, okay. But the first true notes of hard rock actually don't kick in until about 3 minutes into the song, and they really come in. If you listen closely, you can almost tell that they're about to happen, but really unexpectedly. And then from then on out, you hear guitar, you hear repeated lyrics again. She knows is repeated over and over and over throughout the song, again, leading to some mystery that I think the singer may have hoped would remain hidden, but he also then realizes that it's not because she knows. And then at 5:47, it's a shade over 6 minute song. At 5:47, all the drums in, you think the song ends, but then there's about 45 seconds of various tracks of guitar reverb. So,
Mm.
sound coming back out of the speakers that were put together that basically ends the song. So it's just a neat way to do that. Another one that is that way that you have to go to YouTube if you like that reverb. You have to go to YouTube and watch it. But Drown, also by Smashing Pumpkins, which probably is my favorite Smashing Pumpkins song. It's not available. The extended version is not available on Spotify. It's off the single soundtrack, but you can go listen to it on Spotify and you can go
On
listen
YouTube.
to it on YouTube and find the extended version that's got maybe half the song, and it's a 7 minute song where it's just playing almost reverb, which is really cool. So
Can can listeners guess if someone has maybe forced someone in this Zoom room to do that before? Yes or no?
I see no hands going up, so
If you guessed yes,
nobody
you'd be
knows what you're talking
correct.
about. But again, like
I like
Drown,
reverb though, so
yeah.
that's where that
So
came from.
so Drown, the that band Three, from college, that was another one that they played, and they would have the guitar going up to the speakers doing feedback, and it
Which
was
is
really,
so
it
also
was
so much
really,
fun to
really neat.
watch
Yeah,
an
yeah.
artist do that
So,
anytime.
shout out to those guys. So, um, I guess that's it for the Pixies. Um, which brings us to our next album.
Which
Boop,
boy
boop,
are
a
we going
doo.
for a vibe shift? Because our next album is Songs for Swingin' Lovers by Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
Get
Okay.
get ready. That is a vibe switch.
That is a shift. Um,
Mhm.
Pixies to Frank Sinatra. Wow.
Is an interesting choice by this album, by this list of ours. But we're doing it.
Yep.
So
Here we
if
go.
you're a swinging lover or not,
Frank Sinatra.
listen to this album.
Old
Songs for
Blue on
Swinging
this.
Lovers.
Yeah. Eh, eh. Frank Sinatra. Well, enjoy your Frank Sinatra. Go back and listen to some of the Pixies. Maybe in between listening to Frank Sinatra, if you need a little hard rock pick me up from old Frank. But until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Riley, and this has been another episode of Barber Cut.